Okay, so let's go ahead and cover some fasting, intermittent fasting, prolonged fasting, frequently asked questions, FAQs, and one of the biggest ones that I want to start with, and I know that it's already been covered, but I just want to say it again. Fasting, will fasting put me in starvation mode? Isn't it unhealthy to skip breakfast? And the answer is no. Consider the term break and then fast. Break fast. This refers to the meal that breaks your actual fast, which is done daily. Think about it. You intermittent fasting, you go to bed and you're not eating during that time. So you're literally fasting. But what you're doing when you're focused in at it as a tool, like we teach, then you're doing some prolonged intermittent fasting or prolonged fasting and doing it strategically to support your insulin, to support your energy, support focus, blood glucose levels, to get rid of toxins, all the different things that we talked about. So remember, intermittent fasting allows the body to use stored energy. So after all, that's what it's there for. That's why we take in the food and we store it, right? Fat is actually supposed to help us with energy. The important thing is to understand that there is nothing wrong with that. The problem is that the stereotypical breakfast or skippers have unhealthy lifestyles. So they don't look that great. They don't feel that great. So if you eat your balanced macros and caloric intake for you, what's recommended for the rest of the day, then the practice of intermittent fasting is completely healthy. You don't have to have food first thing in the morning. You're actually better because your cortisol is higher in the morning to go for a walk, to get things moving, right? To give it the body even more rest to access those fat cells, because when you do that, you become metabolically flexible. So I'm not going to keep going. No, it's not going to put you in starvation. No, it's not bad to skip breakfast. So let's talk about the what to expect. First thing people are always asking is, when will I see results? And results really vary. The Not only do results vary, it depends on what results are you looking for. Remember that, fasting and intermittent fasting, and when I say fasting, like prolonged fasting, 20 hours or more, or even over 18 hours, it's like, what are you doing it for? Yes, can it assist in fat loss? Absolutely. But it does a whole bunch of other things, which we have shared with you, which we have educated you on. And we use it strategically within our hormone macro code because everyone is different. So the results are going to be dependent on your age, your activity level, your consistency, your current state of your body. It's important that you do a self-body assessment before even starting, so you can create your physical health benchmarks to see how you're actually progressing along. So when you see results, and sometimes maybe it's like, when will I get used to it? And again, this is dependent on the person. One of the things I do know is because women are different than men. We're not just small men. Our body makeup is completely different and hormones are different. That's why we fast differently and should fast differently. For example, when we first started in fasting years ago, Rye's body acclimated very quickly, and it took me a couple weeks. And one of the things that I started to see through my journey was that sometimes it was really easy for me to fast, like it was nothing. In the beginning, it took a little work for me to sustain 16 hours of not eating. And then it got to the point to where, man, it's like I can go 18, 19, 20 hours, not even think about it. But even now, after years, there's some weeks that are harder than others, and it's because of how our hormones fluctuate. So again, the results are going to vary, but what results are you looking for? Are you looking to lose weight? Are you looking for mental clarity, sleep better, get rid of toxins, all the different things? That's what you have to decide and do those. What I talked about is the benchmarks, physical health benchmarks, to see how you're progressing along. Will you lose weight? Well, weight loss is highly dependent on your metabolism, your eating plan, getting proper calories and macros in, and your actual fasting schedule. Yes, you can lose weight, But if your body is metabolically challenged, you may not lose weight right away because you haven't been giving it the nutrients that it needs. Remember, we talked about this when we discussed macros in general, because it's metabolic adaptation. If you keep doing low calorie, low calorie, low calorie, then your body's going to keep slowing down the rate at which it burns and uses up fuel because you're not giving it enough. Now, in the beginning, a lot of times too, like people think that they lose weight, but they're dropping inflammation, they're dropping water weight. And again, we talk about all of that when we're talking about macros and the law of thermodynamics and all of that. So you can go back and review that module to just get a refresher. All right, how long do I need to do this, and do I take a day or a week off? So how long do I need to do this, and should I take a day or a week off? So you can create an intermittent fasting plan that works best for you based on your schedule, personal goals, your hormone profile diagnostic. And you can do continually for 7 days a week. You can choose to do only 3 to 5 days a week, or you can take a week off. Your body will adapt, right? So the more that you fast, the better the results you will get, in a sense. Okay. And the more acclimated you get to doing even a prolonged fast. But the body, like I said, when it'll adapt, it's good to give it a break. So sometimes people get so in tune with intermittent fasting, they're afraid not to fast 16 hours. Some days I'll fast 18, 19 hours. Some days I'll fast only 12 hours. Some days I only fast 10 hours. It just depends. But in the beginning, you have to look again, going back to what results are you looking to achieve, and also looking at your hormone profile and your hormone protocol recipes, dependent on, do you have high, is insulin a challenge for you? Is your thyroid sluggish? Do you have gut issues? All of that is going to determine like your kind of schedule when you're working with us. As far as like even the VIPs, we help design all of that for them, but we've also laid out protocols for you, the top 5 protocols to follow. And in there, we put the actual fasting schedule. So you can review that based on your hormone profile diagnostic and what your hormone protocol recipe should be based on your diagnostic. But again, it's not going to hurt you. Just like some days having higher calories than others is actually going to surge up and help give your body a boost. What things will you notice? Well, with intermittent fasting, like I was talking about with the first question of seeing results, it's going to take a certain amount of discipline, but as we mentioned, it also takes time to get used to. And the first few days are going to be the hardest. Like I said, it took me about 2 weeks. Some days, they get adjusted in 7 days. Just know when you get hangry, when you're that hangry person, that means that you're a sugar burner and you are metabolically challenged and not metabolically flexible. So you want to get to where your body can sustain that feeling of hunger, right? To where it's tapping into your fat stores for energy. And you will notice you might get lightheaded in the beginning. You might feel more tired. You might get a headache. Know that these will pass. Make sure that you're drinking plenty of water. Make sure that you're adding like Celtic salt or Himalayan sea salt to your water. Hydration, it really, really is important. But again, you'll adapt. So once you adapt, you should experience increased energy levels, sustained hunger, clearer thinking, increased focus. One of the things I know, it's the longer that I fast. I mean, sometimes I'll go throughout my day and work, and I won't break my fast until I know that my schedule is slowing down with work. Like if I have consults or I have emails I have to write up, or working, just whatever we do in our business, sometimes I need that heightened focus. So I won't break my fast, so my focus doesn't get broken. And these are the things that you will notice. It's very cool. When it comes to your body composition and weight loss, as we talked about just a second ago, everyone is different. So we suggest that you give it a full 4 to 6 weeks of consistency. And then you measure, monitor, and adjust. You might experience a hard time in the beginning getting in all your calories for the day. That's one of the things too, in the beginning, but then that went real quick. Just be patient with yourself, be consistent. But that's, that's where you'll just measure, monitor, and adjust, right? And go by, if you have more questions, go into our communication app, ask the question. If you're in our VIP transformation program, then, you ask there, and more than likely you've already have a strict fasting schedule based on your protocol. So let's go over some like just fasting basics, right? Fasting basics. What if I can't wait at least 16 hours? Is it okay to do less time but remain consistent? Well, I just talked about that. And yeah, that's exactly, do what you can do. Like in the beginning, we always suggest, if you normally, eat breakfast at 8 a.m., push it back an hour, do 9 a.m., and then push it back another hour, and then push it back another hour until you make it to 16. Just do more than you're already doing. Like if you go to bed and let's say you're sleeping like 7 hours, and then you get up in the morning and you eat within that hour. Well, you just want to make sure that you're getting 8 hours of fasting, and then 9 hours of fasting, then 10 hours of fasting. So get that schedule down and just be consistent. The more you do, the more you do, the less you do, the less you do. So what can you have during your fasting window? Real simple. Water, soda water, black coffee, or tea, but it has to be non-fruit based, herbal, like type of teas, black tea, green tea. During your fasting window, those are acceptable. Avoid all other drinks and specific select supplements during your fast, and confine all eating to only your feasting window. Okay. A lot of times people will talk about the zero sweeteners that are fast friendly and not going to break your fast. And that's true. They won't break your fast. However, going back to your hormone profile diagnostic, if you have a marker for high insulin, then that means that you're insulin resistant. And what happens is that you want to stay away from zero sweeteners without anything else in it. Because what happens is a normal, not a metabolically challenged metabolism can do a zero sweetener and not have an insulin response. Someone that is insulin resistant and metabolically challenged, they will have what they call cephalic phase. It's cephalic phase insulin response, meaning that your body responds as it ate something and releases insulin. That's what you don't want during your fasting hours, right? Because remember, anytime insulin is present, fat burning ceases to exist. I'll get it out. But not only that, insulin, when you're insulin resistant and you release insulin, it will impact your focus, thought patterns, energy level, everything. So you have to get that in check. So just be aware of those zero sweeteners. Again, ask the questions in the group if you need more clarity. What food should I break my fast with? That's, all of these are like great questions. So when doing a short fast, like 12 to 24 hours, you don't need to worry too much about what you eat when you break your fast. If your goal is fat loss, then you don't want to have a significant spike in your insulin, which I just talked about, right after you come out of your like digestive rest, not distress. I'm gonna have air quotes right there. What you want to do is you want to eat foods that are high or moderately high in good fats, like MCT oil, coconut butters, oils, nut butters, avocado, collagen, things like that, along with protein, and then foods with a higher fiber content, which will be vegetables, but also, your starchy foods. So look at your, potatoes or berries, foods that just have a good fiber source. Not saying that you can't have the starches, right? But you want to do quality starches versus refined starches if you do them. So if your goal is muscle gain, then you want to break your fast with protein and carbs and keep your fat intake to a minimum during that time. Your body is very sensitive after fasting. So if you release higher levels of insulin by consuming carbs and protein at this time, your fat cells become available to being filled back up very quickly. So that's what you want to pay attention to. When you do a longer fast, like a prolonged fast, that's different. So while individuals responses can vary, in our experience, anything longer than 36 hours for most people will likely reduce the number of digestive enzymes being produced by your pancreas and your intestines, increasing any food sensitivity. So you want to be gentle with your system. So when you start resume eating after a prolonged fast takes more, it's going to take more planning and care. So ease into your feeding window by consuming warm bone broth before eating your full meal. You can eat right after that, but you just want to, be gentle to the system and get those digestive juices moving, and that bone broth will help that. It'll help heal your gut. It's going to do so many incredible things. Do I need a specific food list? No, because the food lists are not necessary when you're intermittent fasting. Whether your intention with intermittent fasting or other types of fasting is solely health related or focused more on body transformation, including weight loss and or muscle gain, the timing windows alone will aid in your goals. So, however, it's important to choose nutrient dense foods such as veggies, fruits, lean proteins, healthy fats. Avoid or limit the foods that you're intolerant to, and practice the 80-20 rule. 80% of your foods you consume should be nutrient dense, whole foods. And then while 20% can be more, I'm going to do the quote, air quotes again, unhealthy foods. You don't have to be perfect, but you want to pay attention to what you're doing. Okay. So you can use the food list that we have, and then you can track your macros, and you're going to get excellent results by doing that. So speaking of macros, food, macros, fasting, right? What about foods that you're intolerant to, which I just mentioned? You want to stay away from those foods. When you eat foods that you're intolerant to, it causes an irritation in your body. That results in inflammation. You heard me say that before. Irritation equals inflammation. When we have inflammation, we have gut disruption, we have liver dysfunction, and then we have hormonal imbalance, and then we're just in that weight gain cycle of feeling like crap. Let's be honest, okay? So where you have irritation, you're going to cause that inflammation, and it's going to wreak havoc on your immune system, and that's what you don't want. So even though you may be able to consume a certain food without the result of the weight gain, we highly recommend that you steer clear of those foods for your overall health, right? If your body doesn't like it, don't do it. Okay, so next question, is carb sensitivity and insulin resistance the same? Which is a great question. Carbohydrate sensitivity, or what I say carb intolerance, is a sign leading to insulin resistance. And that's the inability of your body to completely process the nutrient carbohydrates, which is sugar, grains, legumes, other types of starches, into a source of energy for your body. So you're metabolically challenged. It's not working properly right now. So being carbohydrate sensitive or carbohydrate intolerant, this leads to higher insulin levels in the blood combined with decreased sensitivity within the cell. This naturally leads to insulin resistance and then the lifestyle-induced diabetes, also known as type 2 diabetes. So if you're if you're a carb intolerant individual, this is a very real chemical and hormonal change that happens when you eat carbohydrates. So it can cause you to feel really full. This can cause brain fog. This causes, breakdown in the system and cells. So then now you're overeating, you're taking in excess calories, and it just becomes an ongoing cycle. So you want to be able to address it versus, and that's how you're addressing it with intermittent fasting or even prolonged fasting. So of course it leads to the next question of, how do I know if I'm carb sensitive? Great question. All you need to do is go to the carb tolerance or intolerance module in your learning portal, you have the diagnostic, you have the modules, just watch there, and then you'll know what level or what type you actually fall within when it comes to being carb sensitive or, let's say, carb intolerant. And I probably should have updated that slide, that question, reworded it a little bit different, but I didn't, and I'm already recording for you guys. All right, so bringing us to macros. So do I have to track my macros? What are macros? How, and then what's the next question? How exactly do I calculate my macros? Okay, so no, you don't have to track your macros. Obviously, if you're doing the hormone macro code, that's what we teach. And your macros are your protein, your fat, your carbohydrates. And to understand how to calculate your macros, understand macros more, and all the details like the law of thermodynamics, you want to go to those modules and watch those modules. But can you get results with intermittent fasting and prolonged fasting without tracking macros? Absolutely. Do you get better results if you know what your macros should be? 100%. Because one of the things that you'll find where people, if they're not paying attention to their food and they're not tracking their food, specifically their macros and their calories, well, they'll start intermittent fasting and they start getting really great results and they start feeling great, but then their results plateau and then they don't know what to do. And the reason that they plateau, because number one, when we first start fasting, as I mentioned, like in the beginning, it might be kind of hard for you to get your calories in. But then if you're like me, it gets easier, right? So what ends up happening is that you don't know where you are in the beginning. You start fasting, you decrease the amount of calories that you're taking in, but now your body has become acclimated to fasting. You start increasing your calories again. So now you're back to the calories you were taking in before, and it might have been too many calories. It might have been too low of calories. But because you're not tracking your macros and you're not tracking anything, you don't have that data to determine what your next step should be. Okay, so I harp on tracking. Don't make it harder than it is. It's powerful data. Don't get emotional with it. But this is how you can actually measure, monitor, and adjust. If you're plateauing, then you start asking yourself the right questions. Do I know where my calories are? Am I eating enough calories? Okay, yes, I'm eating enough calories. Well, am I eating the amount of protein my body specifically needs? Am I getting in the right amount of fat, or am I close? Am I getting in the right amount of carbs? Am I getting in the right amount of activity? And based on how you answer those questions, then you're able to determine those things. So should you track your macros? Yes. Do you have to? No. Long answer, simple answer. Fasting is supplements. Can I take supplements while fasting? And should I be taking supplements? Okay, yes, you can take supplements while you're fasting, but you have to pay attention to what supplements you're taking in, right? So the longer you train, so when it comes to the supplements, right? It's all dependent on what type of supplements you're taking in. Sorry, I didn't mean to repeat myself there, but the supplements, like if it's a fat soluble vitamin or certain amino acids or high amounts of antioxidants, they'll actually break your fast. So it could be like a vitamin E or omega-3s, again, amino acids, antioxidants like I can't even remember now. Oligomeric polycyanidins. You know what I'm talking about. I don't know. But high amounts of vitamin C. Let's say something that I can actually repeat. Those will actually break your fast. Certain herbs are not going to break your fast. So they're not required for fasting. They're going to support your fasting process, but you just want to pay attention to what you're taking in. So good rule of thumb with supplementation, and we go through this when we talk about our hormone protocol recipes, is that, when to take your supplements and what supplements should you be taking. And the base supplements are always vitamin D, omega-3, probiotics, magnesium, and a liver support product. Well, all of those all of those supplements, like liver support can be done on an empty stomach. Magnesium can be done on an empty stomach. Vitamin D is better absorbed with fat. So, and then omega-3s is going to break your fast. So you want to take them after you break your fast. And then the others, you're just fine. But you just have to start asking the questions, just dependent on what you're actually taking for supplementation. And just know anything that has protein, fat, or a carbohydrate will break your fast. So if your goal is like autophagy, because you're trying to do some cell turnover, you don't want to break your fast. You don't want to release that insulin if you're trying to get your insulin in check. So you don't want to break your fast. So hopefully all of that makes sense. Fasting and your workouts. So should you work out fasted? Yes, absolutely. People think that you're going to be weak, maybe in the beginning because your body's still getting acclimated. They think that you are going to break down muscle, and science shows that you're not. Fasted morning walks and strength trainings during a fasted window can supercharge your fat loss and boost your metabolic hormones. Working out in a fasted state not only boosts your HGH, which is human growth hormone, and testosterone, which are your youth hormones, your metabolic hormones, your recovery hormones, but it also allows HGH and testosterone to work in tandem, providing you the best environment for fat burning, building muscle, and increasing your energy levels. You want to build muscle and you want to increase your energy levels. That's like the secret sauce to anti-aging, ladies. So the longer you train in a fasted state, the more fat adapted your body becomes. This means that your body can burn fat more efficiently over time. Remember, you either metabolically challenged or metabolically active, right? Or strong, flexible. And when you're eating something and you have calorie or food in your stomach, then your body, your workout, it's burning calories, but it's burning the calories that you ate versus burning the calories, the fat calories from your fat cells. So just think about that. This is just like with fasting, though. When you say, you can do 5 days, you can do 7 days, you can do whatever. When it comes to working out fasted, you don't always have to work out fasted. Some days we work out fasted, other days we might not. And it's great to change up those type of things for your metabolism. So yeah, that answers that question. One of the things when it comes to training fasted, some fitness experts recommend taking branched chain amino acids like BCAAs before a workout. However, depending on your physical goals and intensity of your strength training, I'm reading what Ryan wrote for you guys. We recommend a few different things. Okay, and he's sharing some studies here. Recent clinical evidence bears out that fact that repeated fasting does not cause muscle loss. 2016 study compares a strategy of intermittent fasting with daily calorie restriction, the conventional method of weight loss suggested by most health professionals. While both groups lost a comparable amount of weight, the intermittent fasting group lost 1.2 kilograms of lean mass compared to 1.6 kilograms in the calorie restriction group. Comparing the percentage increase in lean mass, the fasting group increased by 2.2% compared to 0.5% in the calorie restricted group, implying that fasting may be up to 4 times better at preserving lean mass. Whoa. According to this measure, importantly, the fasting group lost more than double of the amount of the more dangerous visceral fat. There you go. Okay. So that's pretty interesting, right? So should you work out fasted? Yes. Can you switch it up? Absolutely. Will you lose muscle? No. Make sure that you're getting the nutrients in during your feasting window and you are all set and good to go. Will fasting slow down your metabolism? Well, we just talked about that. No, because it's making you metabolically flexible. It's tapping into those fat cells. And long as you, during your feeding window, you're giving your body the macros that it needs, that you specifically need based on your activity, your age, your goal, then you're going to get the results and you're going to feel amazing. There's studies showing that. So chronic calorie restriction reduces base metabolic rate. So when you're not giving your body the nutrients that it needs during the feeding window, right, then that's when that metabolic adaptation happens, and it will slow down your metabolism because you're not giving it the nutrients that it needs to function. So go ahead, go back to the macros module, go back to where I talk about the law of thermodynamics and where I review all of that. It's going to give you a good overview and a good refresher on how your metabolism actually works. So there you have it. Those are some base FAQs for you. Just a real relaxed conversation, obviously. If you have more questions, if you need more clarity, don't forget to go into the community, post your question, and we will answer it there, or join us on our virtual live clinics and we will go over it there as well. See you guys on the inside.